action. So thank you very, very much, everyone, to be here with me. At least I am not alone. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to comment on what is on screen. I'm going to talk a lot until we reach slide number 11, where we're going to start to play a little puzzle. If you want, you can actually move into the slides by yourself. So you have the link in the chat. It's called the nearby chat. And you also have two other links where you can see all the cards of a card game, which is this one. It's a card game of the 7 transmedia families. So we're going to talk about the game as well. So the links are for seeing the full set of cards. But you don't need them at the moment. Maybe we can use them later. But you're free to do whatever you want during my presentation. You can go on the board, move to other slides, and look at the cards. So I'm going to start to share my screen. And if you want to interrupt, please do, because I'm going to be talking a lot. You know, I have so many stories. But if you want to interrupt, you can interrupt. Raise your hand or raise your voice, okay? The timer in the back. Yeah, I don't have birds, unfortunately. Okay. I live in a town with a lot of concrete. Partager mon écran. So I'm going to do a test and learn, which means that I'm testing myself and we're going to learn from each other. I hope I'm going to give you some new knowledge I have gathered over the course of 10 years, but more than 10 years, in fact. And I'm going to fast forward because there are too many things to say. So it's formal in a way because I'm working on a PhD at the moment, but it's informal because right now I'm not really presenting in a very academic manner. I'm presenting to do this test and learn with you. And regarding the improvisation, I'm going to improvise. It's not really prepared. It's prepared in the sense that I know what I'm talking about. I've been writing those slides and I've been working on that topic for so many years. But I didn't prepare, of course, what is going to happen with you. And you can give me feedback any way you want. So I already told you about the links, but I remind the links here in case you're looking for them, okay? And the best way to be in touch with me is LinkedIn. And on LinkedIn, I also have a group called Transmedia Alliance. But the Transmedia Alliance is on standby, but I'm thinking of reactivating this non-profit small association. Okay, so now we start for good. Okay, it's here. It's on the screen. That's very interesting. So on the little slide on the left, with the image of Woody Allen, that's the deck of slides I presented October 22 to my lab in France, in Paris. So I do a PhD in a lab that is dedicated to the science of communication and information, but also precisely of the digital era. And what I'm trying to do is to open the mind of the people about the transmedia concept. So at the end of this presentation, you will definitely know about the transmedia concept, believe me. But to do that, I want to do it progressively. So the idea of proposing, comment on dit, un extrait, an extract, a cut of the movie from Woody Allen, Annie Hall. That's why I put here for you the link, and if you want to fast forward, I give you the exact time where to start. where he's doing an experimentation and is inviting Marshall McLuhan, who is the theorist of the media, to act in this movie as himself. And what he's doing is looking right directly in the eyes of the camera, and is inviting the audience to interact by listening and understanding what's going on with the himself, the actor, and the director, and also Marshall McLuhan. So there is a breaking out of the fourth wall. So what is the fourth wall? The fourth wall is, the wall that you have when you are in the theater. So if you look at the scene on the right, and you imagine a theater stage, the fourth wall is the wall that is invisible and that separates the stage from the audience. So breaking the fourth wall is when you interact with your audience. But what happened with the digital era, and more precisely with the internet and the social media, I don't like to say social media, I say social web. With the social web, is that the interaction with the audience became a new way of doing business and a new way of creating products for audiences. Okay, so therefore we install in the research and the process of thinking in what I call the cultural industries. Because if you say creative industries, there is an issue that I need to solve, especially in France, because before we call them the cultural industries. And since a few years, we call them the cultural and creative industries on purpose. And there is an issue for me with that. So basically, cultural industries, we can also say entertainment industries, but cultural industries will include things like the theme parks, toys, and all kind of product that you can create with what we call a franchise. Okay, so we are all storytellers, and storytelling has been doing a great deal about how you engage with the audience, etc. So recently, about more than 10 years, the transmedia storytelling concept started to progress. I've been working on it, and now I'm doing a PhD on the role of the transmediator. Okay. Alors, I think I'm going too slow, but that's okay. No questions? I continue. So basically, I introduced the idea that transmedia was formatting, very much formatting. So I was not really together with the other people about the idea of transmedia, because I wanted to have a transmedia that would be more open. So for me, it's like a tapestry. And the tapestry of building not only blocks, like you can see on one of the images that was very used at some years in the transmedia community. So it's not a formatting with, for instance, a film, a movie, a book, and a game, like they've been talking about for so many years. And there was a very important moment in the cultural studies, or the history, even the art history, we can say. This formatting of a movie, a game, and a book, for instance, was too rigid, and I wanted to open it to something else. And therefore, I ended up to discuss a lot this concept with game designers. But then it was not enough for me. I wanted to also explore the cultural industries in terms of, for instance, museum. And progressively, as I was discovering this, I realized that it was actually more than just the cultural and the creative industries. It's all the marketing, the communication industries, and actually everything in communication, and therefore everything. So for me, transmedia is a way of thinking, and the basic thing to understand for the transmedia concept, if you want to understand with your own gut, is that it's non-linear, it's non-linear storytelling. So you can imagine a multidimensional narrative that is spread over multiple platforms. And instead of saying platforms, I would even propose to say media form that support, the story. And it doesn't have to be digital. It can be analogic. So for me, the fact that the industry wanted to format the transmedia concept with the digital tools and with blocks, it was not very appropriate to my own experience. And you're going to know more about myself in a minute. So basically, over the course of 10 years, there was a very important literature about the transmedia concept. And now we reach a point where we have transmedia studies. Alors, of course, the transmedia studies, they studies only things that are related to the transmedia storytelling concept, and not enough about a foundation of way of thinking when we think of transmedia, or what is being called transmediality. There is a little bit of literature about that, but less than the literature about the transmedia storytelling, which is very formatting. So I was, because there was already a lot of literature, and also I wanted to do something related to my own story, because I'm not a PhD student with, coming from directly from a master's degree, and I had a professional career before. So it means that my PhD is also a kind of a conclusion of a career I had in myself as a producer, a filmmaker, or a creative professional. So I have a look at the professional system that is being used and expanding also, especially in France, where I live and where I am, my lab is in France, but also in other countries sometimes. And I have seen too many difficulties for professionals like me to find new jobs or new creative production where we can do what we want to do exactly. But on the same time, there are a lot of organizations who are hiring people, and they want those people to have a lot of skills, hard skills, soft skills, knowing a lot of softwares in the field of communication and what they call digital communication, digital marketing, digital everything. So that was a little bit of a problem for me. And what happened in my career is at one point I created this game. So I created this card game in 2010. I was in an artist residency as a multimedia artist. I have been doing a lot of different things before. So I created this game because it happened to me that when I discovered the potentiality of the transmedia concept for creating new products, but also new professions, for me, it became suddenly very important to reorganize the way that the ecosystem of the creative industries, where a lot of professionals are already together as a community of practice, it was important to rearrange this community of practice in a way that it's growing to new skills and new expertise and what I call specialties. So now we can talk about the game. Well, the game, have you played Happy Families? Have you played Go Fish yourself?
Go Fish.
I'm sure you did. So basically, you have the 7 family. I'm going to go, let's go to slide number 11, maybe 11, I think. Well, 9. Okay. So slide 9. Family community, family business model, family design, family gameplay. And then if you go to the next slide, you have the other families. And when you go to the links, as I said, before, you can have each card if you want to see the detail. Because each card is a character, is a member of the family. So you have 2 sons, 2 children. It doesn't have to be 2 sons, it can be a girl. And you have the parents and the grandparents. And the 7 families I played when I was a little girl a lot. And why I took this game? There is a very important reason. First of all, it's in the commons. Second of all, it's the history of the profession at the 19th century industrial revolution. So for me, it was something similar from the 19th century industrial revolution and the digital revolution. But I was already post-digital revolution. And I was like, oh my God, but how are we going to work together? Well, so gamification is also the solution, not only, I cannot read the chat for the moment, I'm in my story, but then you're going to be in your story as well. So basically, I said, oh, but this is obvious. We should play the game of the 7 families, because as I was building this game, understanding what are the families, why is this family important, who are the character, what does the character into the game of transmedia creation, transmedia production, transmedia design. When I was doing the game, making it, it was obvious. And I wanted to apply the rules of open culture, participatory culture in the game. Therefore, I asked other people to do the game with me, to make the game, to make the cards. Okay, let's go back to slide number where I was, which is 6. So I launched the game, and I started to test the game. Basically, that's when I started my independent research. So my research is based on this 10 years of independent research, applied independent research in the field. And then after 10 years, I ended up to start the PhD. So I make a short story with a very long story, believe me. So it's more like a demonstrative monography, because I started with grounded theory, which is obvious because I tested the game, and by testing the game during the workshop came up the idea that we need a transmediator. So came up the idea that we should focus on the role of the transmediator, because this transmediator didn't exist, we had to create it. And it's not only a facilitator, it's more than a facilitator. And it's not only a project manager, it's more than a project manager. So there was this, reflexive thinking about the role of the transmediator was missing in the game. So there's, of course, now autoethnography, and I'm still working on the idea of the methodology for the research. So in the research, why is complexity being used? Well, it's obvious. First of all, everything is nonlinear. But I was very much influenced by the philosopher Edgar Morin. So I put on the slide for you some main basic ideas, as well as names. So the name of Hannah Arendt, it's because I use her philosophy in my research. Howard Becker, I use his sociology in my research. The other philosophers, they have influenced me. Thank you, timer. But I'm not really, I'm not I'm not an expert on those philosophers, but I know their work. Some of them I met, actually, and that was very important for me in my life. And so I have created, and I had to do it. It's not because I wanted to, but the only way I could explain where I was going is to create 2 systems to focus on only one. So I'm going to do, just take 5 minutes on this idea of the systems. The first ecosystem that is already in place is the ecosystem that is making the creation, making the œuvre, okay, which is the the artistic creation that you see anywhere on screen, on your telephone, on the wall, in the street, whatever. So that's the system of the œuvre itself, that comes from Howard Becker. And this œuvre, this creation is transmedia. So, or transmedial, or transmediatic, it doesn't matter. So the transmedia œuvre already exists. People are actually working on it. You have a study case right there with Marilyn Monroe. That's a study case I follow since 2015. That is still going on. Okay, it's still happening. The œuvre is happening. It's not something static anymore. So that's the first system. But there is a second system that nobody sees. Is the system of making it, making the œuvre, making the design. It's not designing only, it's more than designing, because then you have to implement the design. And once you have implemented, which is production, you also have distribution, which I call now dissemination. So it's really more than just making an artistic creation, okay? So I focus on the invisible ecosystem, which is the ecosystem where you will actually do the œuvre. Okay, so let's go to next slide. And here we go. There is the paradigm numéro 1, which number 1 paradigm is invisible. As you see here, it's where you are in the sea and under the sea, where actually the audience doesn't see the creation. And that's where we make things happening, okay? And you have the other paradigm, which is the transmedia creation, the transmedia experience, the system where all the story elements are put together to create the story universe, okay? So my idea is that the transmediator, or I could say something, I should say my thesis is that the transmediator is the invisible role, and obviously for me the profession, but I cannot prove it for the moment, the role that is the orchestrator of the transmedia design, and that transmedia design is at the service of the organizations, so they can better, recruit those people, that they want to do all those digital stuff. They can better understand, they can do better with their communication and their marketing, and they can improve it. So I want to provide and foster coherence. I'm missing vocabulary, so I hope you will help me to have more vocabulary in English to express all of this. But coherence seems to be a good word to explain that strategy that the transmediator is going to do. And also, I'm not going to call him a transmediator for the general public, because I think orchestrator is a better word. Okay. I put some reference for you if you need them. I'm going to the next slide. So now you have the families that I've been talking about. If you have questions, let me know. I have 7 families. That was the prototype, of course. So there are changes that are going to happen in this next deck of cards, but a few. And that was very surprising for me, because when I first released the game in 2011, I thought that it was, not definite and everything will be changing. But over the course of the experimentation and the years, it happened that everybody loved the game the way it was. People understand it somehow. And even the design, the design is so different in each family. We did it on purpose because it's a prototype, so we're testing the design. But people like the idea that the design is different. Okay, so what I would like to do now with you, and of course we can do a Q&A because that would be very helpful for me, but is to think of the idea of the œuvre as the puzzle. And because we're all storytellers, and we have those side stories and all, you also have a way of using your stories to whether it's for a personal branding, or if you have a company, you're doing the communication for your company, whatever communication or marketing you're doing, you're using storytelling and you're using platforms and you're using digital tools. So if you want to test the game very quickly, because normally, the ideal time to really do something with the game is to do a real life experiment, with real life parameters. 3 days is great. I did a 3 days workshop that was really wonderful. 3 days is great because you have 2 days of workshop, and the third day it's more like a restitution kind of. So we can do something easy if you pick one card in each family. Normally what we do, I go like this and you pick a card first. And then you have a roll. Okay? And according to the reaction that you have with that roll, we decide together, if you are going to apply that roll. So if you pick the card, you say, "Oh, that's me," people it's always them. Funny enough. But sometimes they're like, "Oh, that's not me, but I would like to try," And that's where it's the best, because they learn from that. So whatever role they take themselves, if we do a transmedia creation together, they love their role because whether they are an expert or they are learning. But at a distance like this, what we can do, you can pick one role or one character, in each family. So you will have 7. You do it on your own. And you see whether you actually apply this idea into your communication. Do you actually use this in your communication, or is it something feasible? If it's good, if it's there, good. If it's not there and you can do it, good. If it's not there and you cannot do it, that's not a problem, because you go to the game and you pick another one, and so on. And there's always a solution. But what is the game is saying, and I'm going to wait. You are going to answer the question, because I didn't say what the game is saying yet. It's funny, I didn't realize. So any questions, any remarks? Do you want to tell me what you think that the game is saying? Take your time.
So we're selecting one card from each group for our own communication strategy?
That's the format I propose for today. Just for today. Because the ideal transmedia experience would be 42 cards, which means you have them all. But it's most of the time it's not possible, and I've seen a lot of production experience creation. I've seen them doing very well with at least one card from each family, which means that the 7 families are needed. If one of the family is missing, usually the production is not doing very well. But I discovered that over the years. I didn't know at the beginning. It was really coming from my own personal experience. So, yeah. So I let you ask me questions or tell me what you think the cards are saying.
Okay, so this is David. So I have a question, and I don't know what the end purpose is or the end result is, but each of these decks have a role, like a grandfather or a son, daughter, etc. when we pick a card, do we pick a card like in the first set? We pick grandfather. In the next set, we pick mother. In the next set, we pick child.
That's a very
Or
good question.
yeah,
That's a very, for me, it doesn't matter. But the fact that you ask yourself the question is important, because this should be a way of doing. And if it is, that's okay, because if you start from scratch and you want to do a transmedia strategy for your communication or your marketing, you can start by going the way you just said. For instance, I'm going to go to family community, pick up the mother, and therefore when I go to design, I'm going to pick up the father, and so on. Like you have your own little way of picking up cards, because you're starting from scratch. And that's very good, because you just follow your instinct, your intuition, and it doesn't matter. But you have to have some kind of parameters. You have to start from, do I have a communication campaign already? Do I have a strategy? Is my strategy transmedia or not? And it's possible to make it transmedia. So if I want to make it transmedia, it means that the storytelling is going to be spread over all the platforms, and there will be some kind of, feedback and addition to the story. If you go to social media, if you go to real life, if you go to a book, if you go to a letter, if you go to a conversation, there will be, a big story universe, and each media form that you use are going to be feeding this story universe. It's funny that I hear the sound of the wind. And you sleep as well.
All right. On slide 13, I grabbed one from each set for Complexity Adventures.
Okay, so that's you. Tell me about your situation. Are you doing a communication campaign? Are you seeking a communication campaign with those cards?
I think given the kinds of roles and concepts on each in each family, I was kind of pretending like it's forming a team that's going to like organize Complexity Adventures. So like what might be helpful. So like, digital marketing, an alternate reality game, a game designer, brand community management, archetypes, if only to be aware of them and mix them, and then the experience. So I just kind of was sampling across each family, like what was most relevant to me, or the best combination of one card from each family to come together.
It's very sophisticated what you did. So, and it seems to be also related to the fact that you already know what is an alternate reality game. Is that correct?
Well,
Yeah.
This one was kind of my like reach one. It was like it would be cool, game designer and alternate reality game to like push things even further in that direction to some degree. So those are kind of my reach, like exciting two on the team.
Can you explain to other people what is an alternate reality game?
I mean, I'm not sure I necessarily know. It was just the idea of like blurring reality and new types of reality and experiencing new different interaction rule systems and realities to inhabit with others. So that was kind of the thought with grabbing them. I'm not sure if it's a real thing yet. It's just kind of a fun reach one I grabbed.
It is it's funny, but alternate reality games, it's really a thing, and it's continuing, even though people say sometimes, oh, it's not very much fashionable anymore. But there is still a very important community of people around the world playing those games that are happening online, and in real life on site at the same time, or alternatively.
Oh, even better.
Yeah, and it's still happening. And also, somebody asked me one day, do you think that the alternate reality games are the ultimate transmedia experience form of transmedia? And I said yes, because I really think it is. But it's very hard to do that, and it's maybe not appropriate to the situation. So we can also do something very simple. So if I look at your cards and you have the community management, the brand community, you have a game designer, so really to game, and you have a digital marketer. So you can do a game that, with a very simple, smart, application on a smartphone. It's not smartphone. It's not very expensive, and it's already a digital strategy, and it's already an experience. So that's pretty good. So anybody wants to say something about their own understanding of what is the game actually about? So
I just had this one question. Do you hear me?
yes, very well.
Yeah, because I picked them up like more about those who speak to me,
Very good.
rather than those who represent my work or the field I'm working in. And my question was to know, actually, did I write, or I was supposed to pick them in regards of my job, or how? I'm a little bit lost right now, because then I see that my choice is basically 3 different roles. I never have the mother, or it's always like father, son, or granny. So I'm start thinking, am I somehow in my personal life in a role of son, father, and granny? Or yeah, I
That's interesting. There's no rules. There's no rules. So I think that those cards allow us to decide to do our own strategy according to who we are and what we have. What we have in terms of tools, knowledge, and finance, because it really depends on all of these things. So it really doesn't matter, about whether you have more females in your game, whether you have more technology in your game, that doesn't matter, as long as at one moment you will be able to put it together and it will be coherent to do something that it will be transmedial or transmediatic, and you can design this transmedia strategy that will serve your own communication or the communication of your company or your organization or your project. Or if you're an artist, if you create a piece of art and you want to augment the art with something that will be an addition to the story of the piece of art. So there are many ways. So what I wanted to do with the game at the beginning is that I wanted to understand why and how the creative people are going to get together to produce a transmedia experience. Because a transmedia experience or a transmedia project or a transmedia creation or a NAV or a communication campaign that is transmedia is requesting so many specialties from the human doing the design that it's not possible that only one human being has the skills to actually do the work. And in order to also do the creation and do the oeuvre or the experience, I would need the 42 cards to make it rich and very efficient. As I said, it's not possible. So if at least I have one of each family, it works very well, because I can always go to somebody and ask for another specialty, go to somebody and require a little bit of help. The origin of the game was exactly that. That's why I pick up this game. When you play the game with your friends and family, you're like, oh, okay, so I have in the gameplay family, it's my turn. I'm speaking. In the gameplay family, I want the daughter, and I'm talking to Sophie. Sophie, if you have the daughter in your game, you must give it to me. And if I have your card, my family is full. It's finished, and I have put on the table. And the more family I have, the more I get. I can win the game. I'm a winner. Okay, so that was the origin of the game. I win if I have all the members of my family, and the more families I have, I win the game. That was the origin. So you see the idea. The idea is that there's no way I can do something efficient and especially for me coherent and strategic if I don't have the specialty, the talent, the expertise, or the help from the other person. That's the secret of the game. Okay. Somebody wants to try something? I think we have time. I'm going to go back with the slides. So if you pick one card from each of the 7 families, are you using actually this card in your campaign? Yes or no? So what is it, a campaign? It can be personal branding. You know, you are by yourself, you're looking for a job, you're a company, you're looking for a client, you want to go on social media, or branded content. You know, you have a product and you need to sell it. The promotion can be also something that is related to promoting an event, promoting something related to civic life, promoting something related to health, and of course for community management. But again, my focus was on the fact that within the transmedia experience, each of the elements are going to participate to make the universe very spread over multiple platforms. It doesn't have to be digital. It can be analogic. So why is everybody smiling?
I know for me, I'm just getting all sorts of ideas for like how to market complexity adventures, like even the next summit. Like, what if we could do, some sort of transmedia like experience, get people thinking about, video, audio, all these different kind of formats, even in person, like some sort of, Daniel and I talked for a while about what if we could like mail a kit to every adventure, with some sort of not only something that optimizes the setup to participate in the summit, but maybe even just artifacts and that come together to make like a puzzle or some experience that if multiple adventurers collaborate that they can get some information or some signal. That would be fun.
Yeah. Well, actually, the dog in the garden. So there is a dog in the garden in Gather. So that's a character. Okay. The activity that you do in a game that is online is already part of the experience. So you can improve that experience into making it more engaging to the audience. So if you, tell a story, something that is, almost for free, because, well, the most important element here is time, it's not money. So almost for free, if you say a story, if you tell a story on Twitter, with the same hashtag all the time, and you have like a daily episode about the dog in the garden in Gather for Complexity Adventures, and you do it every day for 1 year, believe me, that's audience engagement. Because there will be the story about the dog, who's the dog, and what, so there is this thing, and then you need to invite the person to come to, meet with the dog, etc. So that's just an example, okay? Yeah, Daniel, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just speaking to the game, like what I saw was these kind of rows and columns. Like within each family, there's the family archetypes or some family archetypes, and then also there's different domains of transmedia production. And so that kind of makes like these 42 cells that are like the chessboard, and then what's happening in the mind of the chess player isn't what's happening on the chessboard, but they both need to be happening for there to be like a chess game or a chess culture. And so I kind of see this as like a fun way to use the recombination of the real world, like with the card exchange and with shuffling and randomizing, use those real mechanics to help build creative thinking about like what isn't seen. Because, and this is my question, how do you maintain coherence and integrity in transmedia when any given adventurer through that journey might only see like a very small fraction of the engagements, and or might be bringing their own views to the media, which is of course the point.
Yeah. So you're talking about an adventurer who would be a co-creator of the transmedia experience?
I think it's cool if they are, but even if they weren't, like Yolanda in the chat mentioned like a multi-platform event playing out, and then but what if one person's only on one platform? So then do they get something, how do they get something that's having the impact that's desired if they're only seeing a part of it?
Question. Yeah, we had this question, yes, about the transmedia credit. So if you think of the user experience, the problem is that there's no way every person of the audience is going to enjoy the story world the same way, which is great in terms of marketing. If somebody of the audience doesn't have access to the full set of elements of the story world, that is okay. So the responsibility and the ethics and the integrity is in the role of the makers, the creators, the co-designers. They have the responsibility of making sure that there will be, to my point of view, I'm talking for myself, the responsibility of making sure that they will provide storytelling elements of the story world accessible to everybody, even if they don't have the codes, the devices, the knowledge, the time, or the money to access the full story world. In terms of, you said regarding the adventurers, I believe, for what I know of complexity adventures right now, what we're doing is, for me, a transmedia experience in the sense that, okay, I'm going to do that right now. We have time. So I'm going to analyze, I'm improvising the transmedia experience we are living now together according to the 7 transmedia families. In terms of gameplay, I really enjoyed playing with the dog, and that was a good surprise because I was not aware of it before. I had to discover it, and I discovered it through the lens of other players, and that's part of what we call game design. So it happened organically, which is great. I'm sure you're very happy about that, but this can be designed. So then, in terms of platform, you guys are amazing. Really, I love Gather and I love Coda, and that's enough because there's already a lot of media forms. But of course, you can add more, which you're trying to do now with the help of Michaela and other people, with the social media. But in terms of platforms, I love it, and There is also the notion of series, because there is a planning where you know that you are going to gather at certain times. So there is the notion of serial something. In terms of communities, I don't have anything to say, because obviously there is a lot of work on the community part. And in terms of production, it's already going on. There is a lot of thing. So let's go to the family of production. The lawyer. So if I look at the card, the lawyer in production, it means that who is in charge of the legal issues that emerge in complexity adventures. Okay, somebody needs to take care of this. The creative director. Who's doing the creative direction of complexity adventures? Okay, everybody. The curator. We have it. The digital marketer. We don't really have it, but almost there. Okay, we can do more. The producers. Not bad, but we can do more. And the business angel, this is what you're looking for now. Okay, let's go to story world. I think for story world, okay, I have to say something about the story world. For most of the transmedia designers I've met since 15 years now, all of them, they think that the story world is the most important thing. And if you talk with marketing and communication agencies, and if you talk with advertisement agencies, etc., all of them, it's like storytelling goes first, and story world, and storytelling, and stories this, story narratives, blah, blah, blah. Always story first. But for me, what I see is that if you put too much in the story, you don't have enough to put in the other cards or in the other family. And it's not great to have a wonderful story world if you cannot spread it and if you don't have people to enjoy it. It doesn't make sense to work on your story world very much if you're not sure to have the audience. So that's my personal point of view. Design. Design is very important those days. We have a good design here, okay? It can be improved, but we have a design. There is something. And the business model. So the business model can show that if there is something you don't have yet, maybe you can look for it, okay? A strategy, being independent, crowdfunding, I think this is what you're doing, the franchise, the brand community, and doing some advertising online or somewhere for free, maybe. It can be affiliations. So I think the game is, you said creative thinking is probably the expression I should use. Yeah, creative thinking, I'm taking note of it. Okay, so I didn't read the...
Yolanda, quick question. You have a couple minutes. You've used this with clients? I mean, Karine, you've used this with clients?
Good question. I used it with professionals and with some businesses, but not in with an agreement where they would pay me for the results. They knew that it was a prototype and they knew that I was testing. So the deal was, we're going to test it together, and we don't know where we're going.
And what did you find as, in terms of its utility with the client, the potential client? You saw at least the small sample. I mean, did it provide a space where people could talk about new ideas or address assumptions or recognize gaps if they didn't have them, or I don't know.
Yeah, I can tell you, what comes to mind in terms of positive results or even negative results, actually. There are a lot of them, but I don't recall them all. First of all, the first thing that is very wonderful is that it concerns everybody. Everybody in one company, or everybody in one project, or one body, one person only. You know, there's always a way that a person can take something out of the game. Always. I'll give you an example. One day, I showed my game to somebody who was from the UK. He was coming to France to sell his series. I think it was a television series, but I'm not sure. So it was fiction, entertainment, and business. And he did a transmedia experience on his own. It was, in probably in 2013. And when he saw the game, he was like going through the cards, and he was like, "Oh my God! If I knew this before, I should have done this. I should have done that. I could have done this. I could have done that." So I realized that this way of thinking needs to be taken into account before we go into production. But if we go, then I did the experiment. When I go into production and I go into the phase of what we call pre-production, we're in pre-production and we use the game, we have too many ideas, especially if the people are very creative. It's like too much, and maybe it's not possible to apply in real life because it's too creative. You see? So we need a balance between being not creative enough and being too creative. And that is always according to the budget we have, or the time, or the devices the audience is using. So I give you a concrete example. There was this wonderful documentary filmmaker doing a very big transmedia experience with Belgium and France, involving newspapers, national television, and it was fiction but documentary at the same time. And we had so I was just a consultant, but I knew everybody in the team because I wanted, everybody to be transmedia ready, to make sure that we were going to do something really, really nice. And we had many, many solutions. And one of the solutions was to print out posters and post in the streets of Paris. Okay, so there we have a kind of alternate reality game. If there is some game design with the story world, okay, if the game design is going to engage the audience to look for the posters or take a picture of the poster and do something and win a free whatever, that's just game design. So we did it. But the problem is that, it didn't work very well because there was not enough people to help to inform of the posters, and there was enough people in the streets to understand about the posters, So we can do a lot of mistakes like this. What else? Then there is this example I was telling before in the other session, it came up. When I went to this agency for architecture. So you only have architects. It's a big agency, so they also have people to do the administration, the marketing, the accounting, etc. So it's a medium-sized company in Paris, and I go there and I said to the CEO, okay, we're going to do the experiment because I want to see how people get transmedia ready in the domain of architecture. Because it was the beginning of smart cities, IoTs, etc. So I was like, oh, that would be great to do a transmedia experience.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just want to make sure because we have back-to-back sessions, just so that we start the next.
We have another session now.
Yes.
Okay. So basically, to finish with that story, once so I said to this person, make sure your team is going to remain in your company once they get transmedia ready, because you need long-term implementation. And he said, yes. But once we did the workshop, what happened is one person who was very important in the company left the company. She left the company because she understood many things and she wanted to do more. Architecture was not enough. She wanted to implement the new knowledge she was getting. Okay, so this is to conclude to say that, if we are too creative, we should be careful. And if we're not creative enough, we should fix that. Thank you.
Amazing
So
session.
the chat.
Thank you, Karine. Yes. Thank you for this session. And I will close the recording. The next session is with Barb.